Hello, and welcome to this presentation, Getting Started with the CMA180 Sensor Measurements. In this presentation, we'll explain how to configure and use NRP series external power sensors with the Rohde Schwarz CMA180 radio test set. This presentation assumes a basic understanding of RF power sensors and topics such as zeroing and aperture. If you're unfamiliar with these topics, or if you'd like a brief review, you might want to watch the presentation Understanding Basic Power Sensor Measurements before beginning this presentation. The CMA180 radio test set can configure, control, and retrieve measurements from an externally connected Rohde Schwarz NRP series RF power sensor. On the CMA, you will see these sensors sometimes referred to by the abbreviation EPS for External Power Sensor. One of the main reasons for using an external power sensor is that these typically provide very high accuracy, and the use of external power sensors is supported in the analog TX, DX, and expert scenarios. In addition to providing a real-time display of currently measured power, the CMA can provide statistical power measurements as well. NRP series power sensors can be connected to the CMA either via the dedicated 6-pin sensor connector on the front panel or via any USB port when using the appropriate adapter cable. If a sensor is not detected, the CMA will display a warning message when measurements are started. One very important thing to keep in mind is that power sensors typically have a relatively low maximum input power, usually around plus 20 dBm or about 100 milliwatts. Therefore, care should be taken to ensure that the output of the radio under test is not directly connected to the sensor without appropriate attenuation, especially since most radios will have an output power of well over 1 watt. Sensor measurements are started by going to the global toolbar and then selecting either the TX, DX, or Expert scenario under the Analog tab. The sensor configuration and results are accessed via the Sensor tab. Note that there's also a Power tab, and this function can be used for measuring power without an external sensor. It's important not to confuse these two tabs. Please see the separate presentation, Getting Started with the CMA180 Power Measurements, to learn more about this other power measurement tab. Now let's look at the Sensor tab. The buttons on the right side are used to start, stop, and pause the measurements. At the top of the screen are the most important measurement parameters, and below these are the power sensor measurement results. In the remainder of this presentation, we'll go through both of these areas and explain how they're used when measuring power with externally connected sensors. But before making any sensor measurements, zeroing of the sensor should be performed. Zeroing should also be performed if the ambient temperature is changed or after several hours of operation. Zeroing is started using the Start Zeroing button. During zeroing, the RF source or radio under test should either be disconnected or should have its output disabled. An error message will be displayed if power is detected at the sensor input during zeroing. During the zeroing process, pop-ups will show the current status, although the entire process usually only takes a few seconds. The power sensor measurement itself often requires no additional configuration. The frequency of the signal to be measured can, however, be specified. In some cases, this will improve accuracy, since it allows the sensor to correct for very small, frequency-specific deviations in measurement values. An external attenuation value can be provided to account for any external attenuators or cable loss between the device under test and the sensor input. Note that any value entered here only takes effect when the attenuation state checkbox is enabled. Note too that a negative attenuation value will be interpreted as external gain when displaying measurement results. As mentioned earlier, the results themselves are given both as the current measurement and as statistical measurements, that is in terms of average, minimum, and maximum power. The RF statistics parameter defines the number of measurements that are used to compute these statistics, and this parameter is user-definable as well. The configuration icon in the right bottom corner of the tab provides access to measurement settings, including some settings which are not available from the main GUI. There are two tabs, one for measurement control and another for RF settings. Of particular interest are the repetition parameters, which allow measurements to be made continuously or as a single shot. It's also possible to configure coupling of these settings between measurement tabs. Another important parameter is aperture time, which is the length of the acquisition. Increasing this value will increase the contribution of noise to the measurement, whereas decreasing this time will reduce the effective averaging on time-varying signals. Let's end with a brief summary. Rohde & Schwarz NRP series RF power sensors can be used together with the CMA180 radio test set in order to obtain highly accurate power measurements. These sensors can be connected to either the dedicated sensor port on the front panel or to any of the CMA's USB interfaces. As with all power sensor measurements, zeroing should be performed before measurements are made. Measurement results are shown both in real time and as statistical values, that is, as average, minimum, and maximum. Additional measurement parameters, such as signal frequency and aperture time, can also be configured. And finally, it's important to keep in mind that external RF power sensors often have a maximum input power that is much smaller than the output power of many radios, and in this case, additional external attenuation will be needed. This concludes our presentation, getting started with the CMA180 sensor measurements. If you'd like to learn more about power measurements, other radio measurements, or about power sensors and related instruments from Rohde & Schwarz, please see the links in the video description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at rohde-schwarz.com.